Every parent faces the difficult challenge of getting kids to bed on time and making sure they get enough sleep for a healthy lifestyle. Zpods is a St. Louis startup that is working to tackle those sleep issues, especially for children with autism. Here to tell us about a new way to get your kids' sleep pattern under control is Zpods President George Bailey. Welcome to the show, George.
Thank you so much.
And you are making such a difference.
That's what we hope. I mean, I've got a kid with autism, so I'm well familiar with the issue there. A lot of people don't know this about autism, but up to 80% of kids with autism have a chronic sleep disorder. And so my own son, he is wired up into the night, and it's hard to get him to settle. And so, you know, I wasn't necessarily thinking about that problem when we started thinking about, like, what can we do with these sleep capsules that we would like to find a market for. However, when somebody suggested, like, hey, we should be working on kids with autism, sensory rooms and such, then the light bulb went off for me, and I was just like, on for me, and I immediately thought of my son, Joseph. We invited him in to take a look at the pod. He was enamored with it right away, got inside, closed himself in, and then, you know, a few minutes went by, and I'm thinking, like, you know, does he like it? Does he not like it? And I opened up the door, and there's Joseph lying down on his back and just chill.
You're like,
And oh yeah, it was heaven. I was just like, oh my gosh, you know. So at that point, we just started talking with professionals and getting feedback to see, like, hey, do you think that something like this would work? Does it have an application in the autism community? And they have said, totally. We think that this has great potential. We want to see what you do. Let's give it a try.
Now, you found the Zpods actually across the pond.
That's right. So actually, they were invented in China. They've been used for micro hotels and airports. And a lot of the people that we started, you know, marketing this with initially were saying, yeah, you should put them in airports too. You should put them in micro hotels. But there just wasn't a need, and there most certainly was not a passion on our part. We just ended up with them because Gary, one of my business partners, sold a number of them to his friend who works in Florida. He was using them for some kind of weird resort purposes that will come out soon. I'm not going to say much more about that right now. It's pretty cool. But we were just thinking, like, what do we do with these things? And we had every idea under the sun before that idea came up. And once it came up, it was like, bam, that's it. That is exactly where these need to be. And we've been running with it and seeing some really exciting things happening.
And in case our viewers haven't seen what a Zpod looks like, I know you brought a few photos so we can take a look. They're really futuristic looking.
Oh yeah. Kind of Star Wars. You look at that and you're just thinking, like, okay, that's the bed of the future. There's my son sleeping in there. And a matter of fact, kids love that about the pods. We are going to update the look when we start building out the second generation. But for now, we love this look. We think it's really fun. Kids think that they're falling asleep in a spaceship. There you've got a double pod. You know, you've got single, you've got double, but that's a double. And the lights, of course, make it really appealing because kids, particularly kids with autism, love LED lighting, and they find it really soothing, which goes back to this whole idea that it just, every little detail about these beds seemed to confirm for us, like, these were not made for airports. These were not made for micro hotels. They were made for these kids, you know, but it took for us to be able to realize that before we started running with that idea. And now we're just going with all haste.
And let's make sure, too, that our viewers know that you actually have 2 children with autism.
That is correct. I have 4 children altogether, 2 sons, 2 daughters. My oldest son, Joseph, it's a pretty severe case. I mean, he does have some fully integrated time with his classmates and whatnot, but he has a hard time really communicating the things that he needs, and he's very high-strung, and he's very excited. He has a sensory processing disorder, which is also manifest in most cases of autism and probably might be at least one of the big causes of their lack of sleep. His environment just overwhelms him, but the bed really soothes it. But then there's my daughter, not quite as an extreme case. We actually only just got her recently diagnosed. She's 4 years old, and she's, you know, socially apt, and her speech is coming along and whatnot. Just has a few little features that manifest themselves.
Yeah, there's so many different levels of autism on that spectrum. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a few. So stay with us at STL Live. We'll have more about Zpods and healthy rest after this.